John here from More Than a Recipe, and today we are going to be making a special fish dish. It's called Salmon En Croute, and it's kind of a fancy word for a fish pie. And I've got Mindy here with me today, one of my really good friends. Her and her husband came by today, and Mindy's going to be my sous chef. We also have Taylor doing some filming for me, my son, his girlfriend Anna, and my wife is going to be running around as well. She's the one that actually gets everything together for us and helps us in so many ways. But if you've noticed, I'm drinking already. This is an amazing martini made by Mindy, and we thought before we got started, that we would have her show us how to make this amazing drink. So, okay, Mindy, here we go.
All right. So what I'm making tonight is what I call a lemon gimlet. Apparently I've been wrong. It's called a gin sour. So I still call it lemon gimlet because it's my drink and that's what I want to call it. So what I'm going to do, start with one lemon. Cut it in half with my big fancy knife that I just learned how to use because I'm a wannabe sous chef.
Perfect.
That's why I'm wearing my fancy chef coat, because I want to be just like John. So take that. I'm going to take your shaker. I've already got some ice in here. I'm going to take my lemon. I'm going to juice it. And the small end of your jigger is going to be your simple syrup. And then flip it over to your large half of the jigger. And you're going to put gin. I love Aviation because it's just really good. I'm going to pour that in just like so.
Wonderful.
And most people would think to put the lid on and shake it for martini.
That's what I would do.
But the thing is with gin, the top notes are really volatile. So they're juniper and coriander. And so what you want to do is you want to shake it, or not shake it, you want to stir it. Just like this, so that way you don't bruise the alcohol. Because if you shake it, you're really just getting the middle and bottom notes of the gin. And it's basically just you're wasting a high-end gin if you shake it. So you stir it until the outside of your shaker glass is chilled, just as so. Like that. Then you can go ahead and put your top back on. You can just pour it out into your martini glass, just like that.
Very similar to a lemon drop, but you're just using gin.
Just gin, and then you take some beautiful lemon zest that you did for me, so I wouldn't chop my finger off, and just as so.
Perfect.
Boom. Bam.
Wow.
There you go.
Okay.
Gin sour, or as Mindy calls it, a lemon gimlet.
Excellent.
There you go.
Love it. Love it. Thank
Cheers.
you. So
Let's
cheers.
see. Cheers.
Cheers. Let's cook.
Let's do this.
We're gonna get started here, man. Let me tell you a little bit about the ingredients. I mean, literally, this is some salmon that's lined up, and it's wrapped in puff pastry. But there's a couple of layers here, and these are layers of flavor. We're gonna make some sautéed spinach. If you look over here, you'll see we're going to wilt some spinach, and then we're gonna get that going. In fact, I'm gonna turn that on right now. And we're gonna wilt the spinach down, and we're gonna strain it, and then we're going to add garlic and onion to that, and that's going to be our first layer. Then we're going to lay the salmon down, and we're going to fold the puff pastry over, and we're going to put it in the oven for about 15 minutes. And while that's cooking, we're going to make, what are all these ingredients? We're going to make a red pesto. And you see here we got some Parmesan, really good quality Parmesan cheese. We've got some sun-dried tomato, got some garlic, lemon, and pine nuts. And I've already toasted these pine nuts. All of this is low, and we also got some basil rolled up here, some fresh basil. So all this stuff's gonna go into the processor, and it's gonna take just a couple of minutes to put this pesto together. One other thing we're gonna add to that is a roasted red bell pepper. And instead of just using the jar, they make it in a jar where it's already roasted. I thought there'd be a whole lot better flavor if we went ahead and roasted this right here on our gas flame. Just takes a few minutes to do, and I'll show you all how to do that.
Now,
Right-
John, you do this a lot. Like, you have this stuff already cut and prepared.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of like you have a fancy French word for it.
There is a word for it. It's called mise en place. And
Did you know that word, Mindy?
Mise en place.
That doesn't sound
It does sound like a serious condition. But what it is, mise en place is a fancy word for everything in its place. So before you start cooking, one thing we learned in culinary school is get everything together. That way, let me check on my spinach. That way, you're not doing what we used to call the ballerina. The ballerina is this, guys. The ballerina is, oh, I need an onion. Oh, I need a red bell pepper. Oh, I need garlic. Guess what? We're all ready to go here. Theoretically, everything should be here left to right. Everything that we're cooking has already been prepped and ready to go. And what I love to do, one of the most important things I tell people that are new to the kitchen or getting back in the kitchen, what I tell them is that I love for them to separate. And Mindy's starting to cook with me a little bit now, and I tell her that it's very important to separate the prep from the actual cooking.
Yes.
So what we'll do is we'll prep everything. I like to do this early. I did this earlier this morning. I got it out of the way. So when I come back, we're cooking. We're separating the prep from the cook. That way you're focusing on building flavor. I'm going to go over here to our spinach. You got to remember, look at this. Get in here, Taylor. This is one of the first layers of our flavor of our particular dish that we're making right now. What I want you to see here is how much water is coming out of this spinach. We're wilting this spinach down. We will be straining it and adding garlic and onion to it. But I wanted to get it going first. And then Mindy and I are going to work on the garlic and onion. You see that? It's releasing so much water. And we cannot have this water in the puff pastry, or what it's going to do is, make things really,
So when do you know it's done?
Well, it's done. Literally, it's done right now. I mean, you can eat spinach raw. The only thing I'm doing right now is just is rendering all the liquid out of the spinach. So what I've done right now is about what I want to do. So what we're going to do, we're going to get this pan a little bit warm. We got the gas on, medium high. We're going to put a little olive oil in with my new olive oil dispenser. Look at that.
That's beautiful.
And I got that a little warm, so I'm going to turn that down a little bit. And guess what we're going to do? We're going to bring our onions and garlic over.
Do I get to bring mine too, or just yours?
Oh, you know what? We're going to bring yours over as well.
I mean, I want mine to join the party, so.
Yeah, we're going to put, as
I worked real hard on that.
you did work really hard. And this little guy right here, it's a dough cutter, but we use it, can I go ahead and grab yours?
Absolutely, go ahead.
Because I want you to keep an eye on this over here, and I want you to stir.
Okay.
So here we go. We've got onion, we've got garlic, we've got a little bit of olive oil, and put a little bit more. This dispenser doesn't really bring a lot out. A little salt.
Okay.
We're going to season high. Always season high, so you can see exactly where that salt is going. Look, turn it down, and we're not trying to get a lot of color on this. The only thing this is, let me remind you, onions and garlic.
Ready to go.
It's pretty much the,
So don't you want to brown it?
we don't want to brown it, we just want to soften it.
Okay.
All they were doing is
So
softening.
how do you know it's softened?
You'll know because it'll become translucent.
Well, you say you would know, but I don't know.
That's true,
You
son.
know.
I appreciate you telling
When
me
it's
that.
clear?
Yeah, when you'll see it
Okay.
start to go clear. You know, onions are usually white. Look what's starting to happen.
Right.
So so here we go. I'm gonna. Hey, can you get the pepper?
Absolutely. That's pepper. Oh, so the pepper, can we hold it up high too?
Oh yeah, you don't have to hold it up really high. Look, that was fun. So guess what we got going on here? I'm gonna turn this down because those have cooked down a little bit.
Okay.
And now what we're going to do is we are going to try to get the water out of the spinach.
Okay.
I could have thrown that spinach in there
Yeah.
and cooked it down, and it would have made the onions wet. It would
That's
have
how I
taken
do
a
it.
long time. So guess what we're going to do? skin off. And for everybody that's watching, I'm gonna post these, the full recipe on my Facebook or Instagram or maybe on YouTube on my channel. But right now, you know, I'm just gonna walk through as best I can and tell you what we're adding here. So we've got a medium-sized processor here, and we're making pesto, sun-dried tomato in oil, about a quarter cup. Drop it in. Might be a little bit more, a little bit less. So we've got that. Next thing we're gonna do is pine nuts. I actually toasted some pine nuts earlier today.
How did you toast?
I actually put them on the top, in a small skillet.
Yeah.
And kept an eye on them. If you look, you can see there's some little brown going on there. Another quarter cup of pine nuts. I'm gonna estimate that to be about a quarter cup of pine nuts. What else is in this recipe? Garlic. 1 to 2 cloves. Whenever it says 1 to 2 cloves, I add 3. So I love garlic. Garlic
And what's
is
the
mine.
rule about, like, if we have garlic for dinner?
Well, if we have garlic, 2 garlics cancel each other out. That's what I've
So we
always
both have to have it.
So, you know, if you are both eating garlic, it's
good.
not a big deal.
Yeah.
And then guess what else we got? Got some really good Parmesan cheese. And I actually grated it, and we're gonna put that in there as well. So look at all that stuff we got in there. I'm gonna use Mindy's new knife, and I'm actually going to squeeze. Wow, that is a sharp knife.
That's
awesome.
amazing.
And we're gonna squeeze a little bit of lemon juice in here as well. Again, less than a tablespoon. That's all I want. So we've got all this stuff in here. What are we waiting on?
The roasted red bell pepper.
We're waiting on this guy.
Roasted red bell.
You would not believe.
Roasted red bell pepper.
Roasted red
Red-
bell pepper. Now I want
that's
you to feel the
monster.
heat. I want you to feel the heat. How much
Oh my
heat?
God.
Can you believe how hot that is?
That is hot.
And that's just from me dropping the bell pepper in.
Yeah.
So we're gonna pull them out, and we should, it might be a little too soon. Oh,
Basil.
I also got some basil.
Most important part of the
To
pasta.
me, there's nothing like the smell of fresh basil.
Yeah.
And this is wonderful. I'm gonna tear it once, stick it in there, and look at everything we've got in there. Again, that's probably,
So how much?
yeah, I was gonna say it's probably about 5 or 6 leaves.
Okay.
You know, that's about, you know, just kind of ballpark it, but you gotta have a little bit of basil in there. If we were making regular green pesto,
Yeah.
these are all the ingredients for that, except for we wouldn't be putting
Sun-dried tomato.
sun-dried tomato or roasted
Right.
red bell pepper. We'd be putting parsley and basil,
All the greens.
and everything else is the same.
Yeah.
So here we go. So I've got my roasted red bell pepper, and what I want to do is I want to cut the top off. This thing is really still hot.
Wow.
Just from, see all that
Wow,
heat?
it's
Look at
very
that.
hot.
And what I want to do, normally I would let this cool a little bit more, and I would scrape a lot of this,
The char off.
the char off.
What if
I'm-
you get the char in there? Is it
That's
okay?
all. It's fine. In fact, you know, it's okay. Now, see, it's okay. I'll scrape a little bit of it off, but it doesn't. Look at this. We roasted it. What we're doing is we're getting that outer skin off,
Yeah.
and there we go. I need about only half of this. Here we go. We're gonna put it right in, even though it's still hot. We're putting it in. I'm gonna get a little bit more.
So no seeds.
No seeds. I'm gonna scrape the skin off, stick them in there, and we literally have everything in here that we need except for the olive oil. And this is actually gonna turn into a pesto right now. Watch this. And again, everybody wants to know measurements. I would say that this is probably going to be less than a half of a cup of olive oil that we're gonna add. Look at that, Taylor.
It's beautiful.
Look at that. Come over here, Mindy.
I can
I want you to see think about everything that's in there. The roasted red bell pepper, the sun-dried
It
tomatoes,
smells so good.
the garlic, the
Yeah.
basil, the
Yeah.
Parmesan cheese. All of those great things are in there. And what's really crazy is this recipe only calls for 2 tablespoons. And we've got all this left over, so what am I gonna do? While that's baking, I'm gonna make a sauce, and we're gonna have a little sauce.
Oh, the
Besi- when we plate up.
That's.
You're not gonna believe that.
Oh my God, that's so.
And-
Wow,
Yeah.
we did that.
We did that. But now it's time for the
The dough.
dough. So we got some puff pastry that my wife was kind enough to
So this
actually
is my
roll out.
moment. This is
Yeah.
my moment, right? So I've washed my hands. So earlier you threw away the box. Bought a puff pastry that we rolled out. And I rolled it out on a parchment paper. So what's great is then that I can take this parchment and I can just roll it out here on this cookie sheet. Gotcha.
Excellent. So Mindy, here we go. We got our puff pastry.
let's
Remember
do
we've been talking about this salmon en croute, this puff pastry.
Here's my crust.
Now it's time to add our first layer of our pie.
And onions and our garlic.
And I will
So-
tell you, when we made this the first time, I didn't roll it out as thin.
Yeah.
And we didn't feel like it was done enough.
Yeah.
Right?
Because
So
it was like too doughy.
it was a little bit too doughy. Part of it was, I think, the fact that we hadn't squeezed all that liquid out of the
Yes.
spinach, and the other part was that I hadn't rolled it out as thin.
But I do want to make sure that we don't go to the edge because we're going to be rolling this up. You notice how I'm leaving about an inch here? So here we go. Now this pie is actually forming into something now.
So I rolled this out on parchment paper, and then that way I can use that to help fold the edges in.
Yes, very important to have the parchment underneath because without that, especially if you have this puff pastry out too long, it'll get real sticky. In order for this puff pastry to become really pretty, we call it in the business GBD, golden, brown, and delicious. The only way you're going to get that color on this puff pastry to where it's really pretty and golden is by a little egg wash. So Mindy, if you don't mind. Here we go. What we're gonna do, we still got it on the parchment. This is our pie, this is our en croute, and this is only the first part of it. We've got the spinach below, we've got the salmon, we've got the puff pastry wrapped around it. We're gonna cook this for about 15 minutes. And then we're gonna bring it out and we're gonna add a little egg and pesto to this. And it's actually gonna set and form a pie. So here we go. We're gonna go in the oven, 400 degrees for about 15 minutes. You know, so here we go. So we took this pie out, or this en croute out, and we cooked it for about 15 or 20. Notice how we're starting to get nice golden brown here. And
That's from my egg washer.
that's right, that was the egg wash that and so what did we do? We took the remaining egg wash, we put in 2 heaping tablespoons of the pesto that we made,
Yes.
and now we're gonna pour it in these crevices, and we're gonna put it back in the oven for 15 minutes. So here we go. I'm just making sure. And there's really no rhyme or reason. Look at this. I'm just gonna pour it in. Look at that. Look at that.
So fancy.
Oh, it is a little bougie.
That's very bougie.
Here we go.
We had bougie salmon
Look at
tonight.
that. So look at that. We're filled up pretty good.
Well,
I don't want to
we're
put too much. We could put a little bit over the top if we wanted to. Why not? Add some pretty color to it. There's one thing I will say is that some people will see this and they know that there's a fine line between doing a pie like this and overcooking the salmon. And this is one thing that is really difficult. Look at that. So there's our pie. So it's going to be really easy to overcook this. So a couple of recommendations that I have is make sure and keep that salmon in the refrigerator until the last minute. Keep it as cold as possible. That's set, I think at 400 degrees for another 15 minutes, I think we'll be there.
You got our timer?
You got your timer? Yeah, 15 minutes.
15 minutes, timer.
So we'll be back in a few minutes and
She's on
Okay, 15 minutes and counting.
okay. Are we gonna try this out? See what it tastes like? Let's do it.
Right up, let's see.
Okay, let's get into this thing, man.
I'll do that in a cup. Wow.
It should cut for you pretty easy.
That cuts really quick. There was some salad all over my face. Okay.
You give it a try
Throw
first.
away salad.
That's a big bite.
Look at it. It's hot.
Love it.
Oh my goodness.
My goodness.
so
This is better than last time.
Oh, wow.
Let me do this again.
amazing.
Let me do this again.
Wow.
Puff pastry's cooked through. I'm tasting I'm tasting the spinach, the onions, the garlic at the base. I've got this great pesto with the egg custard.
I don't have those
That's
fancy
it.
words. I'm just saying, like,
That's it.
y'all, that's good. Yeah.